Sukhoi Su-25 is an attack and close air support aircraft which is initially created for Soviet land forces. During the Great Patriotic War, the basis of the assault aviation of the Soviet Union were piston aircraft. After the Great Patriotic War, air regiments were disbanded and the very concept of ground attack aviation was abolished. A new military doctrine, which includes the use of tactical nuclear weapons, is considered over the battlefield. 10 years later, military doctrine began to change again. With this change, the ground forces again came to the fore. During the large-scale military exercises in Dnieper, which is held in 1967, the role of supporting the ground forces was assigned to supersonic fighters Su-7B and MiG-21. However, those aircraft were too fast to detect ground targets. This brought the need of specialized attack aircraft to support land forces. Sukhoi was one of the few initiatives that works on these requirements. At the beginning of 1968, preliminary concept of the aircraft was developed. According to the Sukhoi engineers, aircraft has to have reliable protection of the crew and main components from armor-piercing bullets and missile fragments, have the ability to operate on unpaved airfields, have a simple design using non-deficient materials, short time to prepare the aircraft for a sortie, ease of piloting technique to enable the medium-skilled flight crew to fly. While the Sukhoi engineers continued the design, the Ministry of Defense decided to hold a competition to increase initiatives working on the project. Mikoyan and Ilyushin companies were also attended to this competition with Sukhoi. Different from other companies, Sukhoi provided not only the design of the aircraft, but also full-size overview, which helps them to win this competition. In the early stages, military was demanding that the aircraft could reach speeds of up to 1,200 km per hour, that is almost the speed of sound. However, design experts believed that 900 km per hour is enough for this type of aircraft and it would be more effective at low altitudes. After long calculations, they agreed on a maximum speed of 1,000 km per hour. In 22nd of February 1975, the first prototype had its first test flight and this date is considered as the birthday of Su-25. In parallel with flight tests, experiments were carried out. One of the experiments was combat survivability and it was carried by firing bullets from a cannon to the separate parts of the aircraft. Since it is created for close air support, pilot has to be strongly protected from ground attacks. In order to achieve this, cockpit capsule is designed as an armor made of titanium plates with a thickness of 10 to 24 millimeters. In addition to titanium capsule, pilot's head is covered with a headband. The main part of the canopy is a triplex laminated glass. The vital parts assemblies of the aircraft is also protected by armor. Most of the elements of the control system are located in the upper part of the fuselage, since there is the least vulnerable to projectiles. While conventional aircraft had rods with a diameter of 10 to 12 millimeters, Su-25 had rods with diameter of 40 millimeters. During the combat experience of Su-25 in Afghanistan, titanium armors were implemented on the hood of jet engines. However, that was making the aircraft too heavy, and in order to reduce the weight, just one of the engines were equipped with armor since just one engine was strong enough for a safe flight. During the war in Afghanistan, after 1987, man-portable laser-guided anti-aircraft missiles called Stinger were appeared in the armament of Mujahideen. As a countermeasure, Soviet engineers implemented heat traps throwing flares. At first, pilots could throw them manually. However, in real combat situation, pilots were too busy flying an aircraft, aiming, and firing guns. Later on, it is automated. When pilot fired the guns, which also means closing to the enemy elements, flares were thrown from the tail section automatically by this system. Special attention was paid to the fire safety system as much as combat survivability. Since the aviation kerosene itself is not so easy to ignite, main thing to consider was the fuel vapor accumulated inside of the fuselage. In order to prevent accumulation, the fuel tanks were filled with polyurethane foam, which absorbs vapor and prevents vapor from spreading all over the plane. Thanks to this technique, significant amount of vapor that can cause a fire will be absorbed. In addition to this, a special protector based on a latex sponge is pasted outside the walls of the barks. When this sponge was pierced by a bullet, it was narrowing the hole on. Thereby, fuel leakage was being prevented even if the plane is hit by a bullet. Another important feature of the Su-25 was that it could run on diesel fuel as well as aviation kerosene. Since it is a close air support plane, they were operating really close to land forces. In case of any emergency landing near the land forces, the engine has been adapted to diesel fuel, which is also used in tanks, so that the aircraft can be refueled and operationalized. It is also equipped with folding step ladder, since it is designed for unprepared sites in the absence of airfield equipment. Other equipments required to prepare the plane could be carried in containers attached to the pods. It was once thought that even an aircraft technician could be transported in these containers. Close air support aircraft design also requires high maneuverability, the possibility to quickly reduce the speed, and accurately withstand when attacking a target. Such characteristics were achieved by installing air brake flaps on wingtips. Because of their unusual appearance, they received the name crocodile. In 1980, Su-25 completed its first test cycle and moved on to the second stage. Ministry of Defense decided to test this aircraft in real combat conditions. Thus, Su-25 would have gained combat experience while it was still in the testing phase. At that time, Soviets were fighting against Islamic Mujahideen in Afghanistan, and Su-25s would be used to support Soviet land forces. Now you will see a few clips of Su-25's combat experience in Afghanistan.
Подошли ко мне, что-то горланят. Один сунул прикладом в лицо. Кровь глаза заливает волнами. Что ж, прощайте, я тянул кольцо. Афган, 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 Афганистан. Кружит черный тюльпан над берегом реки. Афган, 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 Афганистан. Кружит черный тюльпан над берегом реки. Афган, 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 Афганистан. Кружит черный тюльпан над берегом реки. Афган, 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 Афганистан. Кружит черный тюльпан над берегом реки.
Su-25s have great combat experience gained in different wars and different geographies. Their modernized versions have been used in Syria recently, and as of 2022, they are being used by both countries in the war between Ukraine and Russia. Welcome to the mission flight. In this part, we will be simulating the combat action of Su-25. There is both enemy ground elements and enemy jets here. Since Su-25s are capable of fighting against both the ground and air targets, we will try to destroy all the targets demonstrated here. In order to do this, we have a wide variety of weapon options. For this mission, we will use unguided air-to-ground rockets, and laser-guided air-to-air missiles.
Как обычно, вылет срочный, знать прижали наших точно. Мы летаем денно-ночно на свой вечный риск и страх. Наношу в планшете метку, там в квадрате, словно в клетке. Задыхается разведка в этих чертовых горах. Нам поставлена задача, вот еще бы нам удачи. Мы торопимся иначе, там поляжет целый взвод. Запускаюсь без газовки, техник в старенькой спецовке. Хлопнет борт по законцовке, 2 грача идут на взлет. Мы смотрим на пейзажи, надо быть всегда на страже. Между гор и скал виражем, эй, браток, не отставай. Выхожу из-за пригорка, осмотрел успех на горке. Ничего себе разборки, ну ведомый, не зевай. Как обычно, вылет срочный, знать прижали наших точно. Мы летаем денно-ночно на свой вечный риск и страх. Наношу в планшете метку, там в квадрате, словно в клетке. Задыхается разведка в этих чертовых горах. Нам поставлена задача, вот еще бы нам удачи. Мы торопимся иначе, там поляжет целый взвод. Запускаюсь без газовки, техник в старенькой спецовке. Хлопнет борт по законцовке, 2 грача идут на взлет. Мы смотрим на пейзажи, надо быть всегда на страже. Между гор и скал виражем, эй, браток, не отставай. Выхожу из-за пригорка, осмотрел успех на горке. Ничего себе разборки, ну ведомый, не зевай. Эй, внизу, держись, пехота, начинается работа. Справа 30 пулеметы, мне земля в эфир орет. До ворот бросаю фабы, и на выводе не слабо. Словно я попал в ухабы, спутала самолет. Трассера как паутина, маневрирую активно. Живописная картина, как Саврасова грачи прилетели. Выручаем, с огоньком нас здесь встречают. Вновь земля не отвечает, ну разведка не молчит. Я кручусь и кувыркаюсь, в 100-й раз я зарекаюсь. По прилету увольняюсь, чтоб не я 200-й груз. Нахрена пошел я в Качу, вот Ульяновск. Все иначе, был бы дом, машина, дача, и водил бы я арбуз. Грач, бедняга, изувечен, я за это им отвечу. И несутся мне навстречу ярко-красные шары. Чудеса еще бывают, я живой, хоть попадают под глаза, мне разъедает, и не скрыться от жары. Горячо, не просто жарко, отправляю вниз подарки. Удержать попробую марку под свинцовым кипятком. ВПУ, как пушка танка, грохот выстрелов, болтанка. Я как мышь в консервной банке, по которой молотком. Не попасть бы нынче в сводку, чтоб по нам не пили водку. Я как уж на сковородке, из расходован БК, имитирую атаки. Выходить пора из драки, ведь почти сухие баки и потрепаны бока. Мне похоже, как морозом, грач устало клюнул носом. Значит, весь я под вопросом, самолет мы просто в хлам. Но живая машина дышит, словно держит кто-то свыше. И в наушниках я слышу: летуны, спасибо вам. На обратном довернули, позади снаряды пули. Уравнение обернули, держит в воздухе грача. Борт летит на честном слове, а из носа капли крови. Знайте, санчасти, на здоровье, получу я от врача. Дальний, ближний, вот бетонка. Парашют мой хлопнет звонко. За рулю уйду в сторонку, и меня не тормошить. Где-то бой, но это где-то, а вокруг такое лето. Техник даст мне сигарету. Эх, ребята, будем жить.